Clients come from other money managers. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you switch to us. Fisher Investments. Clearly different money management.
Investments in securities involve the risk of loss.
See the high-flying dunks, show-stopping blocks, and crowd-silencing threes at Delta Center this season. With an action-packed schedule, it's easy to get to a Jazz game. Pick out an unmissable matchup, or just a tip-off time that works for you. It's time to put on your Jazz gear and head to the game. Come with a friend, a loved one, or as a group. See all available tickets and options at UtahJazz.com or call or text 801-355-DUNK.
Introducing Yes Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric. We're bringing all of Utah's favorite HVAC, plumbing, and electrical brands under one roof. Whether it's a small clog or a larger mainline sewer drain issue, the experienced technicians at Yes are ready to solve all of your drain problems. Take advantage of our 83 or It's Free mainline drain clearing special. Feel secure knowing the trusted professionals at Yes guarantee that if we can't clear it, you don't pay for it. Visit theyesmancan.com for details, terms, and conditions.
It is cold outside, and that's no surprise because it's winter. But for me, it's been even colder than usual because I've shed over 50 pounds, yes, 50 pounds of fat weight since September following the program designed for me personally at Soda Weight Loss. Yes, I made it through the holidays losing weight, not gaining it, and as a result, now I gotta wear a jacket all the time because I'm so cold. But it's so fun to take off the jacket and be skinny. And just in time to help you keep your New Year's resolution, I've got an amazing opportunity to tell you about. You could win a full year of Soda's amazing program and a $2,000 wardrobe makeover, and you'll need it, in Soda's Shape Up Showdown. To enter, all you have to do is send an email to shapeup@sodaweightloss.com. That's shapeup@sotaweightloss.com. That's it. So don't wait anymore. Make 2024 the year you change your life for the better with Soda Weight Loss. Say it with me. State of the art.
Join Mike Stevens of Capital Wealth Advisors for Retire Right Radio, Saturdays at 5 a.m. and 9 p.m. That's Retire Right Radio with Mike Stevens, Saturdays at 5 a.m. and 9 p.m.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair. Save up to 20 cents with DinoPay. Here's Michelle Rowe.
Well, again, we're still seeing crews working on this crash. This is southbound I-15 in Centerville at 2100 North. They're off to the right, so if you can move over and give them some room as they're clearing this out. Also seeing snow flurries up Summit Park. This is in Parley's Canyon. It's 2024, time to get Zero Resified with Zero Res. This month, get one room of free carpet clean starting at $25 per room with promo code 25RM. Book today at zerores.com/Salt Lake. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, a winter weather advisory is in place until Thursday. The northern Wasatch Front can expect up to 7 inches of snow and up to 11 inches on the benches. Right now it's 30 degrees, a high of 34 expected today, with snow showers across the valley. I'm Dale Spalding from KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Well, the Senate and the House have reconvened in our nation's capital to take up the business of the American people. We'll take a quick look back to get a perspective of what comes next. Let's begin.
Think you know the news of the day? Think again with Boyd Matheson on KSL News Radio.
Well, the calendar's turned. We've moved into the new year, and there's a big list of to-dos on Congress's schedule. But we want to get some perspective in terms of where we've been over the last year and what that might tell us, how it might inform our decision-making as we move into 2024 and beyond. And to help us do that, we're really thrilled to have joining us on the program today Mitt Romney, Senator from the state of Utah. And Senator, Happy New Year to you. Welcome back to our nation's capital, and a lot of work yet to be done.
Well, thank you, Boyd. Good to be back in the saddle here, and a lot is happening. We'll see if we can get things across the finish line, but at this stage, it looks promising.
All right. Well, let's do a quick look back. You were involved in some real crucial conversations over the course of 2023, and I want to just kind of bounce through a couple of those that I thought were really significant. And I want to start with China because I think that's continuing to be a major issue. We know we have elections coming up in Taiwan this coming weekend. Give us some perspective of the conversations you were leading in 2023 and how that will shape important conversations in the new year.
Well, there's no question but that China is our major competitor on the world stage, and they intend to replace us to become the economic and military superpower. To have our currency replaced by their currency as the world's reserve currency, to be able to call the shots anywhere in the world. I mean, they have pretty ambitious objectives, and they've developed a game plan for achieving that. Unfortunately, our country has not put together a game plan to push back against them in the various parts of the world where they're acting. And the leader of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, a Democrat, and myself did fashion legislation calling on the administration with the help of outside experts to develop a strategy that will push back against China. And we're encouraged that we're receiving information about what they're doing, what we need to be doing, and we have a piece of legislation on China that I think will ultimately get a vote in the Senate and the House this year, designed to finally have America take the initiative as opposed to always be responding to what China's doing.
Yeah, I think that forward-leaning strategy, I think, has been a big part of that conversation in terms of how we approach China. One component to that I'd love to have you play out just a little for us, Senator, because it does impact us here in the state of Utah as well, and that is the need to bolster our domestic critical mineral capabilities, which impacts so many different things, and our dependence on China for a host of things.
Yeah, China was acting brilliantly, to tell you the truth. While we were asleep at the switch, they were going around the world buying up critical minerals, cobalt, lithium, nickel, and so forth. They were buying these things around the world, the mines where they're mined, or the processing facilities, such that they basically dominate almost all of the critical elements that are necessary for manufacturing the products of tomorrow. And we've let them do that without even competing to purchase these things ourselves. So we have insisted now with new legislation that we evaluate where we are, that we use our funds strategically to help get some of these resources for ourselves, that we carry out a complete audit of our military readiness with regards to those minerals as well. So there's a lot that we've finally got to be doing. The sad thing is it's taken us, well, almost a decade to finally figure out that, hey, we got to begin to act here to make sure that we have the materials we need to manufacture the products that go into our defense capabilities as well as our economy.
Yeah, no question about that. One of the other bipartisan efforts that you were a part of last year dealing with infrastructure, give us a sense in terms of the trickle down of that and the impact here in the state of Utah.
Yeah, the good news is that we were able to help draft, and when I say we, myself and my team here in my office, were able to help draft the infrastructure bill, which was passed and has resulted in, not just hundreds of millions, but billions of dollars coming into Utah. Water projects, transportation projects, everything from widening highways to getting new vehicles for our track system. I mean, it's there are all sorts of elements that needed to be refurbished and are being refurbished as a result of the funds that were put in that infrastructure bill. And it's something that, frankly, I think Republicans and Democrats agree on, which is if you invest in infrastructure, you make the economy able to move more quickly, you create more jobs, and you enhance our economic strength, which can then be turned into our military strength as well. So investing in infrastructure is generally considered by both sides of the aisle to be a smart thing to do.
Yeah, no question about that. And now I want to get into some of the forward-moving things. Obviously, we got some deadlines coming up as it relates to funding the government. But before we talk about those specifically, I want to make sure we spend some time focused on an initiative that you and Senator Manchin have put forward in terms of the overall fiscal health, stabilizing the debt, because I think if we don't have this conversation first, all the other questions just aren't going to last and aren't going to matter in the end.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the sad news is that our state is the only state in the nation that lists the deficit and the debt as a major political issue. The rest of the country seems to be asleep on this. I don't know why, but there just hasn't been much attention paid to the fact that we have over $33 trillion in national debt, and we're spending almost as much on interest on the debt as we spend on our military. I mean, how are we going to keep up with China and Russia, for that matter, if we're spending as much on interest as we do on our military? It's unthinkable. So Senator Manchin and I have put forward legislation to call for a commission or commissions to be established, bipartisan, that come up with a plan to get us to a balanced budget, to reduce the amount of deficit annually, and to get our debt down. This has to happen. It's politically difficult to accomplish in an election year because both President Biden and former President Trump want to say, we don't want to change anything. We don't want to change any of the spending programs, but we've got to. We've got to change our revenues and our spending. We cannot continue to add massive more debt to our national balance sheet, or the implications for the future are dire indeed.
Yeah, no question about that. And I think as you look at your last year in office, it's always one of those where time gets limited, focus becomes really sharp. And I think the fact that you and Senator Manchin rolled this out even before Congress reconvened, I think is an important focus point for all of us. Give us some of the short term in terms of what you expect to see in the coming days. Obviously, the January 19th deadline is a first component. February 2nd, ironically, or maybe tragically, a Groundhog Day. It feels like we've been through this shutdown showdown before. Give us some sense in terms of what the conversations are and where you hope they'll go moving forward.
Well, and you know about this, Boyd, because you spent some time back in Washington. But there's this battle that's been going on, which is the majority leader, whether it's Republican or Democrat, typically doesn't want to see the normal process with lots of votes and amendments. Instead, they want everything to be held up into the very last minute where they can craft a bill basically by themselves and say, take it or leave it. If you don't pass this, the whole government shuts down. And that's what Chuck Schumer's been doing so far. He's the Democratic leader, as you know. He has not been moving the appropriations bills. They came out of committee back in July, and we haven't voted on. There are 12 that have come out. We've only voted on 3 of them. We need to get these votes done. My guess is you're going to see the deadline come and go. We're going to have another continuing resolution for, 30 days or 45 days or 15 days. To give more time for votes, but we're insisting on votes on individual bills with amendments so we can try and cut out some of the unnecessary spending.
Very important. And before I let you go, Senator, just give us a quick snapshot of some of the things in terms of Ukraine, Israel, border security. All of those things have kind of been wrapped together. Do those need to be decoupled? How do you expect to see those play out in the days ahead?
I think it's likely that you'll continue to see funding for Israel, Ukraine, and an effort to close down the border. Those will continue to be combined. It's possible to be pulled apart. I don't think so at this stage. Look, let me note with regards to Ukraine, it is in our interest to see Ukraine succeed. If we walk away from Ukraine, that says to the world, you can't count on America. One, they committed to help Ukraine in a circumstance like this, so we got to follow through on our word. But number two, Russia represents a threat to people throughout Europe. And if we just walk away, then Europe's going to walk away from us. And as we face a more assertive China, we need the help from our friends. We need to have friends. It's one of our great advantages as America, is that we have friends around the world. If we're not willing to stand with our friends when they're in need, they will not be with us. So it's in our interest to help Ukraine and to see them succeed. And if they don't succeed, it will not be because we weren't with them. We've got to be there with them. So I think you're going to see a border bill that finally closes down to a certain degree the mess we've got at the border. The Biden people and Chuck Schumer are fighting that tooth and nail, but we're going to keep on battling. Hopefully, get that done just in the next a couple of weeks here.
All right. A big, long list, a big bite and a long chew, as we like to say, and many things to get done. Senator Romney, we appreciate you leading a lot of those crucial conversations, working on those bipartisan components and some things that not only impact where the United States is around the world, but impact us right here in the state of Utah as well. Senator, I know very busy day for you in Washington, D.C. Thanks for carving out some time for us.
Thanks, Boyd. Good to be with you.
All right, again, that's Utah Junior Senator Mitt Romney. Some really crucial conversations there. And we'll break all of those down as we go through the day, and they will splash over into a lot of the other topics we'll talk about today, tomorrow, and the rest of this week as we look at where we actually are on everything from funding to support Ukraine, aid for Israel, border security, funding the government, and how do we best position the United States moving forward with allies, with enemies, and right here internally, the unity that we need to have at home. We'll be right back.
Think again on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson. 7 days until Utah lawmakers are back on the Hill.
Making decisions that affect you.
Fewer taxes taken out of paychecks.
Tax credits for families, affordable housing, and school funding.
This week, KSL tells you everything you need to know about the upcoming session. Wednesday, school safety and curriculum. Thursday, AI and technology. Friday, anything affecting taxes and your money. Listen this week, Eye on the Hill 2024
on KSL News Radio.
The snow and the cold are here, and there's more to come. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and if you haven't gotten your furnace tuned up yet, I'm about to save you some money. Normally, we charge $124 to tune up your furnace, but if you call today, Tuesday, January 9th, and mention you heard this ad, we'll give you $95 off and tune up your furnace for only $29. Call Any Hour Services right now to schedule, 801-443-7400. Manufacturers recommend annual maintenance to ensure safe operation, maximize efficiency, and help your furnace last for as many years as possible. 801-443-7400. If it's more convenient, go to anyhourservices.com and look for the red button that says Book Online. Schedule your $29 tune-up there. To lock in your $95 savings, all you need to do is get a hold of Any Hour Services today. That's a $124 value for only $29 if you call Any Hour Services today. 801-443-7400. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
It's that time of year. Time for the amazing Utah Auto Expo. Friday, January 12th through Monday the 15th at the Mountain America Exposition Center. This is your chance to see the newest cars, trucks, and electric vehicles all at one location. Test drive vehicles from Jeep, Dodge, and Ford, including the new Ford Lightning and Mach-E. Lots to do for the whole family, and parking is always free. It's the Utah Auto Expo. The 12th through the 15th, Mountain America Exposition Center. Go to AutoExpoUtah.com for discounts.
Believe it or not, most small businesses don't have a 401k. If you don't have a 401k, you are missing out on the greatest wealth creation tool ever created. I'm Jeff Jr. with Trajan Wealth, and many 401ks are overpriced for the employer, have expensive and underperforming investment options, and have tedious administrative provisions. Not at Trajan Wealth. We can set up a 401k for a company for only $9 per employee, a $29 per plan fee, plus a small advisory fee. Not thousands or even the tens of thousands you've been quoted. And do it all in less time than it takes to sit in traffic. 401ks will help you attract and retain top talent, and we can do it all for a couple $100. If you're an employee and don't have a 401k, tell your boss. Call Trajan Wealth today.
Call 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600.
Services offered through a third-party partner.
When you choose Performance Automotive in Bountiful, you're choosing selection, convenience, and exceptional service. 4 locations: Performance Ford Lincoln, Performance Honda, Performance Toyota, and Ford Truck Country. All dedicated to delivering you the best auto experience anywhere. Looking for your first car? Maybe you want rugged power or the stylish ride of your dreams. New or used. See it all at PerformanceBountiful.com. PerformanceBountiful.com.
Get ready for the ultimate movie experience. You, your loved ones, the big screen, and, oh yeah, the world-class Utah Symphony playing the movie's music live, giving you next-level surround sound. Don't miss the Hollywood classic Casablanca or the animated favorite How to Train Your Dragon. The Films in Concert series will become your new preferred cinematic experience. Located conveniently in downtown Salt Lake City at Marisa Bravenel Hall. See what's playing next at utahsymphony.org/films. Listen to the greatest classical hits from the 1700s to today. The world-class Utah Symphony performs thoughtfully curated programs featuring timeless masterpieces by Strauss, Dvorak, and Tchaikovsky, and even world premieres from modern composers. The Utah Symphony's Masterworks concerts offer elegant and entertaining evenings at Marisa Brovnal Hall in the heart of Salt Lake City. Tickets start as low as $21. Get yours at utahsymphony.org.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dale Spalding. First, wind chill across northern Utah will make things feel like 10 to 15 degrees tomorrow and Thursday. Second, the Utah Department of Public Safety has launched a new campaign targeting road rage, which Commissioner Jess Anderson says is still a growing problem in our state. Third, road conditions are expected to be rough the next couple days. Officials advise to keep emergency equipment in all vehicles. Right now, it's 30 degrees and snowy in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Hear elevated conversation on crucial issues. Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. It's great to be with you today. As always, I am Boyd Matheson, and as the new year begins, a lot of people are wondering about what's happening in Washington. We got the Utah State Legislature getting ready to gear up and get going a week from today. And many are wondering, how's this going to affect my kitchen table? How's this going to impact my family, my neighbors' families? And so we always turn to the ultimate inside source for that, Lois Collins from the Deseret News, who understands and gets underneath the headlines of all of this to actually look at what are the policies, what's the impact. And Lois, Happy New Year to you, and welcome back to the show.
Thanks.
So give us a sense of what are some of the things that you're keeping your eye on in particular as it relates to family policy?
So every year I ask sort of a kitchen cabinet type group of people, and I am a political atheist. So basically I ask anybody across all political lines, what are you hoping for? What do you think would help families? And that's the bottom line for me. What do you think would help families?
That's a radical question to be asking.
I know, kind of crazy. So this year, when I asked people what they expected, the things that really rose to the top, probably number one is the child tax credit. Yeah. There's wide agreement that the child tax credit's going to need some revamping and some enhancing. And it's interesting because some states are also doing their own version, and Utah is considering that as well. I understand that's going to come up in the legislative session. Paid leave has been perennial for a while. Some states are now doing that, but the federal policy is not there. And that's something that people are really keeping an eye on. People are talking about social media, of course, and the impact on kids, maybe even making national policy that's similar to Utah's policy on age verification, that kind of thing. Childcare is an issue for most families, and it used to be that it was an issue for low-income families, but even definitely middle-income families and some high-income families are struggling. At the same time that the child care providers are struggling, nobody is getting rich doing child care. And so there's a whole question about affordability, availability, quality, all of that stuff. But the thing that I'm really hearing is nobody expects anything for 2024. They think that the election is going to suck all the air out of the room, and nobody's going to want to take a position on a social policy that benefits families if other people disagree.
Yeah, and that's the big challenge in all of this, which is why election years always drive me crazy, because suddenly we think, well, we can't do anything for a year because everyone is up for re-election. You have primaries going on, and then you get into the general elections, and Washington doesn't want to deal with anything. And so we want to make sure we're advancing some of these conversations in terms of what these policies look like and what the impact would be. I want to go to the social media piece. I know you've tracked that one really closely. And there has been some chatter in terms of the national. We just had Senator Mitt Romney on. He's been one who's been looking at some national issues. As you look at that, both in terms of what the state of Utah has done and what some other states are doing, how do you see that one playing out? What's the conversation around that policy?
So I think part of the conversation right now is about the lawsuits in the states, that there are lawsuits now for states that have passed some sort of policy. There's a coalition of social media companies that I think it's called Now One.
Yes.
I should know this for sure, but I think that's what it's called. And they have been challenging some of the laws in different states. And so I think maybe on this one, Congress is going to be a little bit slower than it might otherwise be to see what the courts say yes or no to before they craft some sort of national policy, which to some degree makes a lot of sense to make hay slowly and maybe for once save us a couple of bucks.
Yeah, and save us a couple of lawsuit rounds as well,
exactly.
for sure, which just leaves everybody up in the air and nothing moving forward. Let's go back for a minute to the child tax credit. As you look at that component, obviously we've been dealing with inflations and high costs. You mentioned everything from childcare and the costs and quality and availability. What are some of the things that you're hearing and sensing in terms of family as it relates to the child tax credit and some of these other peripheral things?
So during the pandemic, it was expanded. There are a lot of fans of the paid monthly because it helped people meet their day-to-day costs, so housing costs, that kind of thing. They're fans of that. There are other people who say, no, we should keep it as this big lump sum that maybe helps families. Everybody thinks that it needs a reboot, that families did well when it was enhanced, which meant that it was paid regularly and it was also a little bit bigger. And so right now, inflation has really hurt families. And housing costs are up, food's up, everything's up. It's not just inflation.
Right.
And so I think that there's a lot of talk, and this actually goes with the talk about the fertility rate, because officials are in a tailspin about the falling fertility rate. And the concern is, how do you grow your government? How do you pay for programs? How do you do all these things if you run out of young workers?
Taxpayers.
Yeah, it's just not going to work. So you can't have both. If you make it so families don't believe that they can afford to have more children or have children in the first place, then you've kind of voted that way officially. So maybe there's a lot of belief that if you help families afford, they will be more hopeful, more optimistic, and more fertile.
Yeah, great stuff. Great insight as always. Lois Collins from the Deseret News. Always appreciate your perspective. We look forward to having you back as all of this policy front that impacts family continues on both here in the state of Utah and at the federal level. Lois, thanks for joining us today.
Always a pleasure. See you.
All right, we'll step aside for some bottom of the hour news. When we come back, Representative Blake Moore will join us from our nation's capital as Congress reconvenes with a very busy schedule and a heavy slate of things that actually need to get done. We'll be right back.
It's 1:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dale Spaulding. KSL's top story this hour: snow is expected to hit the state all afternoon and evening, impacting our drive home tonight. KSL News Radio's Amy Kobe reports.
The best advice from our KSL meteorologists: the earliest you can leave work today, the better. Kevin Eubank says that the worst of the storm will hit tonight between 5 and 7, so right when traffic is also at its worst. The storm is also likely to hit harder in the areas north of the Salt Lake Valley.
This is just the first round of many storms on the way for the rest of the week. A BYU study found that Utah's Democratic population is growing. KSL at Night co-host Taylor Morgan told David Dejanovic things are actually going the opposite way. Back in 2000, the Republican voter population was only at 40%.
Today, registered Republicans in Utah are 50% of all voters. Democrats are about 13% of voters. So over the last 24 years, Utah has become significantly more red.
He added that back in 2000, 31% of legislators were Democrats. Now it's just 19%. Your money at this moment: the Dow is down 187 points. The NASDAQ is up 8 points. Coming up, you can expect a rough commute tomorrow morning. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 1:31.
Here's a way to get breaking news updates anywhere you go.
At the store or in a work meeting, you can get breaking news on your phone.
You can quickly read it, swipe, or click for more. It's super discreet, super fast.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
Derek Overstreet, founder of the New Millennium Group. We're a financial planning firm. Listen, we're fiduciaries. We have advisors standing by right now to take your call. That's 888-999-6370. 888-999-6370. The reason you're going to want to call is we're going to help you retire 3 to 5 years before you thought possible. Now, imagine how that would be if you could actually retire 3 to 5 years sooner than your plan was. The way we do this is by putting together a step-by-step plan. taking into consideration any rental properties that you have, any pension income that you have, your Social Security. Listen, we put that all together for you in writing. It will allow us to build your income based on inflation. Inflation has been rapidly rising. You and I both need a plan that whatever we start out our income at, in 5 or 10 years, we're going to need 40% more income. So if you're one of those people listening and you'd like a plan in writing, give us a call at 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370, or go to utahsfinancialplanner.com.
Is using separate office technology like business telephones, chat, video conferencing, and file transferring complicated and pricey? What if all of those things were bundled into one simple product that has over 99.9% uptime, crystal clear quality, and is affordable? And what if you could get your business telephone bundle from a proven office technology partner like Les Olson IT? You can.
Les Olson IT. Healthcare with human kindness is here. It's at Common Spirit Health. Hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advance healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Together, we have a common purpose, partnering with you in health and healing using powerful medicine, powerful technology, and the greatest power of all, human kindness. You'll know it when you see it, because human kindness is in every care site and in every caregiver. Common Spirit Health. Hello, human kindness.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair. Save up to 20 cents with DinoPay. Here's Michelle Rowe.
Well, we're seeing good conditions for drivers on the I-15 corridor. This is going from Tremont and all the way down to Santa Quinn. That earlier crash, southbound I-15 in Centerville, has cleared. Transform your outdated kitchen with half-price granite, quartz, marble, and quartzite, starting at $25 per square foot installed. Visit halfpricegranite.com. Affordable luxury. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather. A winter weather advisory is in place today until Thursday. The northern Wasatch Front can expect up to 7 inches of snow, up to 11 inches on the benches. Right now, it's 30 degrees. We're going to reach a high of 34 today, and temperatures ranging for the rest of the week to 33 and 29 on Thursday. Right now, it's mostly cloudy. I'm Dale Spalding from KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
As we've been covering, Congress is back in session. Budget negotiations in Congress are well underway. Lawmakers are trying to thread that needle to get some things done before the clock runs out. 2 important dates coming up, January the 19th and then February the 2nd. And I keep going back to the irony of that being Groundhog Day because I feel like we keep ending up on this kicking the can down the road scenario with the shutdown showdown. But interestingly, as we move into the new year, Utah's playing a key role in a lot of these negotiations and really helping shape what that federal budget could look like and how things could be done differently. And joining us to discuss that, and someone who's been in those conversations, Representative Blake Moore, of course, representing Utah's 1st District, also Vice Chair of the House Republican Conference. Representative Moore, Happy New Year to you, and welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you. And now I'm never going to look at Groundhog Day differently. Bad image, because you're exactly right. It's Groundhog Day, and we've been dealing with this stuff since we came to a number in the debt ceiling bill that was a great reduction in actual year-over-year spending, and we just need to implement it. So let's get it done.
That is exactly where we need to be. So give us a sense as you reconvene with your colleagues today. Give us a sense of where things are and what you expect to see. We know the number was agreed to, the top-line number agreed to over the weekend with Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. How do you expect to see that play out as you take those top-line numbers and actually get them down to the line-by-line where they need to go in the bill text?
Well, I was a little more optimistic about it, except for the last couple hours when we've seen some direction from the Senate that they're going to need more time than what we've got. Given it's great to be able to fully announce that we've got that top line number. Now it's very close to the top line number that we agreed to back in the early part of the summer.
And then we had, all the time wasted in the fall. And I could be very critical of us for doing the speaker drama instead of actually just doing our job. And I've been an advocate of trying to just get our job done. But so I'm a little concerned about what I'm hearing a little bit from the Senate on doing that part. What you say is very important. The top line number is great, but where does it all fit in the line items? That's going to be the battle. So if there's any extension or not, that's a concern. But it feels like we're at the number. I think that the important thing is, and particularly for Utah, we just don't want to do a long-term, year-long, just push it out, because what that does is that freezes what we currently have, and it doesn't allow for the innovation and modernization that we've gone through on the policy side for things like our defense budget. Yeah. And so that's something that we really, really need to avoid. And so just that's what we're ultimately up against, is if we're unwilling to vote for a good bill that reduces spending for the first time in a decade, that reduces non-defense discretionary budget in a very, very responsible way, then we're going to be stuck with a bill that's just an extension of what we had before and of the long-term piece, and it's really bad for our military and other programs. So that's what we're facing right now.
Yeah, I want to dig into that a little bit in terms of the military component to this, Hill Air Force Base in particular. This has been something you've been very adamant about in your time in Congress, is that when we do these continuing resolutions, everyone kind of does that with a shoulder shrug and say, well, we just keep spending as we are, so it's okay. But it's really not, and you alluded to this, Congressman. I want you to unpack it for us, that when we say continuing resolution, that means if there is some great innovation or if there is something in the military that's not working, we can't change from what's not working to something that's new and innovative because it hasn't been approved in that budget process.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the most unorganized, confusing processes that exist. And so real quick, we have a bill we're introducing this week. It actually gets at the heart of the issue with our federal budgeting. Right now, we only actually budget on 1/4, maybe a little under 30% of all of money spent. That's just the appropriation side. The direct spending or the mandatory spending is over 70% of the budget, and we actually don't even legislate on it for the most part on a consistent basis. These are things like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, big programs, welfare programs. Like, all of that has to be in the process. You can't just look at 1/4 of your budget and say you're doing something. And that's the big frustration that I've had back here, is actually incorporating the entirety of it. And so we're really excited about this bill. It's something that we've worked on with Americans for Prosperity, and it would take a more all-encompassing approach. But in response to your specific question, so you get down to three options when you talk federal budgeting. One option is to pass the bills and get them done on time at the end of September. The second option is if you can't finalize the bills in time, you have to do a short-term CR in order to get that time and buy yourself that time to be able to get it done. And then the third option is like that. We'll just do a year-long long-term CR and just completely kick the can down the road. That third option is absolutely horrible for our military. We've come up with new programs that are targeted to address the threats we face today. We're working more towards the South Pacific on our equipment and our in manufacturing and just our general approach to what needs to take place in that threat environment, as opposed to maybe more of a Middle East type of environment. We have to implement that stuff. But the problem is the same folks that are unwilling to vote for a good bill that reduces spending but is a good bill that gets the first part done are the same folks that are against that second option of extending it till you can get it done. And the only thing that happens if you don't do that is a government shutdown. So that's even worse for our military. Sending our men and women that are out there fighting for us, that are out there serving our nation in uniform, all the way extended to our TSA agents, like just sending them to work without a paycheck, sending them, just doing that. That's the part that's really difficult to do. And so those are the scenarios that you get an option of. And I'm a proponent of getting your job done on the first go around and getting it done. But putting, it's kind of like, let's threaten shutdown, let's do shutdown, but shutdown has not solved our debt. We have had 3 shutdowns over the last decade, and none of them have solved our growing debt. Our debt has to be dealt with on a comprehensive approach.
Yeah, no question about it. And I share your frustration. We actually have a sign here in the office that says, doing your job is part of your job. And I know you've got a few back there that don't quite seem to grasp that. And I thought it was ironic. I was thinking about it this morning, thinking through the fact that today you actually should be working on the 2025 appropriations that need to be done before the end of September, because September 30th always comes. We've proven that out. So in your role moving forward, Representative, as Vice Chair of the House Republican Conference, give us something on the horizon, something that you're looking for. I know it's an election year that creates all kinds of different challenges and problems, but what's a conversation you hope to be having with the people here in the district, but also with the American people as we move through 2024?
So, like I mentioned, that I'm introducing this particular bill. This bill, it's not the first person to think about reforming the budget process. I won't take that claim, but it is a very straightforward, thoughtful bill that should garner bipartisan support, because it's not about specific numbers. It's about the process.
Yeah.
And on the budget committee too, we're also seeing a very bipartisan approach to how can we address this. So this work is going on. It's obviously not as we're proving that it doesn't work over and over by having the budget fights that we're having. But there is a sincere, concerted effort to deal with it. And I'm still very hopeful that we can enact a debt commission, the fiscal responsibility, or like a fiscal commission that doesn't just tell you good ideas and lay out a good strategy, but it actually forces action. And that's what I came back here for. I want to be in a position to reverse our debt culture. And in order to do that, you have to deal with it. You have to be able to engage on legislation, and that's another way to do it. So those are some of the big things that I'm really keying on and hopeful for.
Fantastic. Very busy day as Congress reconvenes back in our nation's capital. Representative Blake Moore from Utah's 1st Congressional District, Vice Chair of the House Republican Conference, in the room where it happens with a lot of these crucial conversations when it comes to the budget and the fiscal responsibility that we have for the United States of America. Representative Moore, thanks so much for joining us today on a very busy day in Washington.
Thank you so much.
All right. Again, that's Representative Blake Moore from Utah's 1st Congressional District. And those are big-time conversations that we got to get to the real part of the conversation. And I love where Representative Moore is leaning into the process. Because if we get the process right, the transparency follows, the trust comes, and the result is good for the American people. We'll be right back.
I know it's Tuesday, but give me 60 seconds and I'll explain how spending $29 guarantees your furnace won't break down this winter, or we'll give you your money back. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and when you have Any Hour do the annual maintenance on your furnace, it comes with our no breakdown guarantee, 801-443-7400. Normally, we charge $124 to tune up your furnace, but not today. If you call today, Tuesday, January 9th, and mention you heard this ad, you'll lock in a $95 savings and get your furnace tuned up for only $29. 801-443-7400. If your furnace breaks down anytime this winter after we tune it up, we'll dispatch a technician to your home to diagnose and troubleshoot your system for free. And we'll give you back the $29 you paid for the tune-up. Where else are you going to find an offer with this little risk? You literally get your money back if your furnace breaks down. Call Any Hour Services today and schedule your $29 furnace tune-up. 801-443-7400. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
It seems like everywhere you look right now, someone is sick. This year, prepare your family for airborne invaders like bacteria, pollen, and yes, germs with Navage Nasal Care. Navage flushes ultra-pure, refreshing saline in one nostril, around the back of the nose, and out of the other nostril. Navage sucks out viruses, dust, and other airborne particles, all the stuff that gets trapped in your nose making you miserable. Don't get caught empty-handed this winter. Get Navage, the drug-free solution that helps you breathe easier, sleep better, and feel healthier. Even better, Navage is HSA, FSA eligible, so Navage is a great way to spend those funds before they expire. Don't wait a minute longer. Buy Navage today and you'll breathe easier knowing you're putting your funds to good use. Navage is available online at Navage.com or Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, and Rite Aid. Navage, Navage. Clean nose, healthy life.
Everybody has their own personal reason for why they come to Soda Weight Loss, why they decide they want to lose the weight finally. I mean, my decision was, if I don't lose the weight now, I'm afraid I'm just going to give up and settle for being this unhealthy weight for the rest of my life. But Jim came to it for a different reason.
My decision was personal from the standpoint of, I have the family history of family members being obese, and I did not want that. And I figured now would be a good time that I could take control of something.
Take control of something.
Yeah, and let me tell you why it's also a good time to do it right now, because you could win a full year of Soda's amazing program and a $2,000 wardrobe makeover in Soda's Shape Up Showdown. Here's all you have to do. Just email shapeup@sodaweightloss.com.
SodaWeightLoss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com.
You know what they say, Amanda? Soda Weight Loss is state of the
art.
Guys, are you sick of struggling with ED? Well, let me introduce you to GuyCare. GuyCare can effectively treat your ED at the source of the problem by using gentle pressure waves, no injections, no pills, and no side effects. In fact, GuyCare is so confident that we can help you that today only, January 9th, we are giving you the first treatment free. You heard right, guys. As part of our grand opening, your first treatment is completely free. No gimmicks, no injections, and no pills. Just results. But you have to call now. 801-331-9911. Normally, this would cost hundreds of dollars. But call us today, January 9th, then your first treatment is totally free. 801-331-9911. That's 801-331-9911. Put a stop to your ED by treating the root of the problem and get your love life back. Call now to qualify for this incredible offer. 801-331-9911. Because your high performance health matters.
Advanced Window Products. High efficiency windows. $2,500 off 10 windows or more for a limited time. AdvancedWindows.com.
Sign up for KSL text alerts and you could win cash. Text the word cash to 57500 for a chance to win $250. That's cash to 57500. Plus, you'll get breaking news and traffic updates right to your phone. Want to win more prizes? Text contest to 57500. Jazz fans, text the word jazz for breaking Utah Jazz news. And Cougar fans, text BYU to 57500 for the latest on the Cougars. Message and data rates may apply. For an alternate entry method and complete contest rules, go to KSLNewsRadio.com.
The movie shows at Minky Couture in Layton this Friday from 10 to 1. Check out all the ways to stay cozy and warm during these cold months. MinkyCouture.com.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dale Spaulding. First, we're just hours away from another round of snow, and it's expected to make the commute home a rough one. Second, avalanche danger is expected to reach dangerously high levels in the mountains of northern and central Utah this week. Third, for the first time, parents of adopted children in Utah will be eligible for a $3,500 tax credit. Right now, it's 30 degrees and cloudy in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Boyd Matheson divides rage from reason on Inside Sources.
Well, we've been watching the snowfall and the temperatures plummet in Iowa as presidential candidates continue to try to canvass the state there in front of the Iowa caucuses. That will be next Monday. And in the meantime, there's a lot of action happening to the northeast, up in New Hampshire, where things seem to be shifting. We may be seeing our first real shift in terms of any kind of sustained momentum as it relates to the presidential race. And whenever we're talking about that part of the world, we always turn to Lisa Kaczynski, reporter on the 2024 presidential race for Politico, in particular New Hampshire, Massachusetts. She's also the author of Politico's Massachusetts Playbook newsletter. And Lisa, as we look at things heating up here as we've gotten into the new year, we are seeing some shift in terms of Nikki Haley. Some people say maybe she got some momentum. Now it looks like that momentum might be turning into some forward movement.
Yeah, absolutely. We now have polls over 2 different months, so December and now into January, that are showing kind of significant movement for Nikki Haley in New Hampshire. And that movement is really that she has now surged into the clear second place spot in New Hampshire. Depending on the poll, she's either within striking distance of former President Donald Trump, or she is still, 10 to 20 points behind him. It depends on the survey, but what is clear is that she is definitely in second place, strongly, steadily in second place in New Hampshire. 2 weeks out from the primary.
Yeah, and that timing is everything, and when it comes to New Hampshire as well. We know Chris Christie has really invested. He's probably a taxpayer in New Hampshire. He's really staked his campaign on being there in New Hampshire. Obviously, the DeSantis campaign, I think, was hoping to do better there. They seem to continue to be on the downslide there. Is there anything in particular that you're sensing in terms of Nikki Haley's message that seems to be at least resonating in some quarters to give her that momentum?
Well, what's interesting is that Nikki Haley has really delivered the same message on the stump this entire campaign. She's strong on foreign policy, given everything that's happening in the world. That's something that New Hampshire voters have been very interested in, and particularly more so after the events, this past fall in the Middle East. And with the debate performances that she had, and now with the backing of the state's very popular governor, Chris Sununu, that same message she said all along, a little bit more on the moderate end of things than kind of the more ultra-conservative Ron DeSantis, has that bit of appeal to independence in New Hampshire. That same message is just now really taking hold now that she has kind of the backing of prominent folks to help support it. And as more people are paying attention in New Hampshire now that it's past the holidays, New Hampshire is a notoriously late-breaking state when it comes to presidential primaries. So this is just kind of a continuation of the interest that started in the fall after the debates began.
Yeah, and it's so interesting to me to see the timing of that, as you said, often late-breaking there in the Granite State as things get a little bit closer. Give us a sense. Obviously, there's been a lot of reaction to this latest poll that actually has Nikki Haley within single digits of the former president. That's sort of at least an unnerving component for the Trump campaign, that someone would be that close where he's had such a cushy lead in so many other places around the country.
Yeah, it's definitely a dynamic that you've seen start to play out in the campaign, where you've seen Trump and his allied super PAC, MAGA Inc., start to go after Nikki Haley in ads, in the rallies that Trump has had in Iowa, because, of course, when he's not in a courtroom, he's in Iowa right now. You've seen them shift from going after Ron DeSantis for the better part of last year to really focusing in on Nikki Haley. You see the ads on TV here. Every ad at this point is pretty much about Nikki Haley. Chris Christie is on air too. Even some of his ads are starting to get in on that. So you're seeing the Trump campaign is starting to see her as more of a threat.
Yeah, and as you look at the Chris Christie campaign, obviously he came out about a week ago saying, no chance of my getting out. Actually ran an ad there in New Hampshire saying, hey, I'm in for the long haul here. Some of the interesting under the numbers kinds of things is the number of people who are supporting Chris Christie who say they would break to Nikki Haley if Chris Christie were not in the race. Is that increasing the pressure there for those who are hoping to have someone able to really challenge the former president?
Yes, it is. There's a lot of pressure coming from Nikki Haley's world right now onto, kind of Chris Christie's supporters, saying that the math just isn't there, and at this point he could be a barrier to potentially beating Trump in an early state, which is not something that a few months ago people thought would be possible. Nikki Haley and Chris Christie have a big overlap in supporters. They draw a lot of similar interest from those more moderate Republicans and independents, who can pull ballots in New Hampshire's primary because it's an open primary. And we've seen that, when I would go up to New Hampshire and talk to voters for months now, that they've been torn between Haley and Christie, and that they liked both of them. And increasingly, as Haley's poll numbers have risen and as Trump sees her, more obviously as a threat, people who are torn between the two of them are now starting to say Nikki Haley seems to have the clearer shot here of doing better in this New Hampshire primary and of potentially beating Trump. Which is, for those voters, that goal. They don't want to see Trump get the nomination again, and they're starting to break her way.
Yeah. And so as you look at these last few days as we come down the home stretch, obviously what happens in Iowa will impact it a little bit, but we know New Hampshire is very independent that way, and there will be more of that late-breaking stuff. anything under the radar that you're kind of keeping your eye on in terms of things that might either be helpful to Nikki Haley or more helpful to a Chris Christie or to the former president coming down these last 10 days or so?
I think that, Chris Christie is obviously hoping that Nikki Haley doesn't have a great night in Iowa. Her support doesn't happen, that could affect her momentum a little bit coming back into New Hampshire, where she really needs to do well to then build that momentum into South Carolina, her home state, where Trump is still ahead.
Yeah, no question. Lisa Kaczynski, reporter on the 2024 presidential race for Politico, especially New Hampshire, Massachusetts. She's the author of Politico's Massachusetts Playbook newsletter. Lisa, thanks for making some time for us today. We know it's going to be a bit of a hurry and scurry as we come down the home stretch here. Momentum is everything, especially when it comes to New Hampshire. We look forward to keeping in touch with you as we roll forward to see how this all plays out in the days ahead. Thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, and that's Lisa Kaczynski from Politico, and she understands that part of the country and how things go. And this is such an interesting one. As we were talking with Lisa, the under the numbers. Remember, we're going to get a lot of top line numbers in these kind of horse race contests. It's underneath the numbers where you got to start digging around. And I think this is a really interesting one. Chris Christie clearly has bet the farm, bet the ranch, and a few other things on New Hampshire being the place for him to get some momentum. And his biggest goal, of course, has been to prevent the former president from winning the nomination. So now, clearly, Chris Christie has not played well in Iowa, hasn't spent a lot of time there, is currently in third or fourth, depending on the poll, in New Hampshire. But the interesting thing, Chris Christie's, in there with about 12 percentage points, according to the kind of that cross section of polls. But the underneath of that is the vast majority of those Chris Christie backers would shift to Nikki Haley, and currently Nikki Haley is within 9 points of former President Trump. And so, does that send the signal to Chris Christie that he needs to pack it up and move along? Depends on what the goal is and what they're actually trying to accomplish. So we'll continue to watch all of that. Very busy couple of weeks on the presidential trail coming up. We'll keep in touch with all of that. We'll step aside for some top of the hour news as we wrap up hour number 1 of Inside Sources. Hour number 2, we'll lead off with Secretary of State Antony Blinken's trip to the Middle East, what that means for the rest of us. Coming up next. Stick around.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dale Spalding. KSL's top story this hour. Snow is expected to hit the state all afternoon and evening, impacting our drive home tonight. KSL News Radio's Amy Kobabe reports.
The best advice from our KSL meteorologists: the earliest you can leave work today, the better. Kevin Eubank says that the worst of the storm will hit tonight between 5 and 7, so right when traffic is also at its worst. The storm is also likely to hit harder in the areas north of the Salt Lake Valley.
This is just the first round of many storms on the way for the rest of the week. The Salt Lake County Health Department says 2 children died over the past 30 days after coming down with the flu. These are the first confirmed flu-related deaths for anyone in the county under the age of 18 this winter. 3 people over the age of 50 have also died. None of the people who died received a flu vaccine, and County Health Director Angela Dunn says this is a reminder that influenza is a serious disease. Utah House Republicans just released their priorities for the legislative session that starts next week. Among other things, they're calling for more resources and funding for the Department of Corrections to address ongoing staffing shortages and a crackdown on fentanyl as a way to combat overdose deaths. Provo police say a man was killed in an accident involving a jack failure inside the garage of a home belonging to Utah Senator Kurt Bramble over the weekend. Police say 2 men were working on a trailer in the garage when police say the jack failed and the trailer fell onto one of the men. He was pronounced dead at the hospital. Senator Bramble was not hurt. Your money at this moment: the Dow is down 157 points, the NASDAQ up 13 points. Coming up, snow squalls during your commutes. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time 2:01.
News doesn't just mean information or dates.
It's the story of our local history being told in real time.
Be a part of the story. This is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
We hope to be a part of your story. We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
You know, it's hard to believe that Dee and I have now been living in our new house for about 9 years now. You know, the thing that has really surprised me is how many appliances we have had to have work on and even replace. You know, the one that we haven't replaced, haven't done any work on at all, have not had a minute's trouble with, it's the Kinetico soft water system. And it's so interesting because when we were building the home, the builder said, okay, well, what do you want for a water softener? And I just interrupted. I said, wait, we're going to go with Kinetico. And they just smiled at me like, yeah, we know about Kinetico. Never once have we had an issue with our Kinetico soft water system, not only in our new home, but in our previous home as well. It just sits there in the basement, does its job, does it so much more efficiently than any other soft water system out there on the market today. Why don't you give them a call, 801-576-8600, or go to softwaterutah.com.
Les Olson IT has the office technology you need to take your business to the next level. Protect your business with state-of-the-art security cameras, sensors, alarms, and access control protocols. Get peace of mind with cybersecurity from our elite IT services team. Reach the next level of productivity, security, and success with Les Olson IT. Learn more at lesolson.com.
Jeff Kaplan here for my good friends at Advanced Window Products. Jake Weber and Nate Orchard are spreading the holiday cheer with their biggest sale of the year. If the wind whistles through your windows, if you want a fresh new look for your number one investment, your home, call Advanced Window Products and take advantage of this incredible end-of-year sale. Replace all of your windows and frames, and you get $2,500 off. But that's not all. You get a free premium glass upgrade. Insulate your home against the cold with double-pane windows and stylish frames, any style, any color, and they're built custom right here at their headquarters in Salt Lake City for 37 years. They build the windows, they install the windows, and they guarantee them for life. Plus, an additional $2,500 off and a free premium glass upgrade. You can save now, pay later, so take advantage. Call now, Advanced Window Products, 801-850-9100, 801-850-9100, or visit AdvancedWindowsUSA.com.
Any Hour Services can help you make sure your furnace keeps you warm this winter. Whether you need a tune-up, a repair, or a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit AnyHourServices.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair. Save up to 20 cents with DinoPay. Here's Michelle Rowe.
Well, I-15 corridor still looking really good if you're going from Tremont and all the way down to the Santaquin area. We do have reports of a new crash in Ogden. This is northbound Washington Boulevard at 40th Street. It's estimated to be cleared in about an hour. It's 2024, time to get Zero-Resified with Zero-Res. This month, get one room of carpet clean starting at $25 per room with promo code 25RM. Book today at zerores.com/Salt Lake. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, we've got a winter weather advisory until Thursday, looking at 7 inches of snow and up to 11 inches on the benches. Right now, it's 31 and mostly cloudy. I'm Dale Spalding from KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Well, 3 months have passed since the horrific terrorist attack was carried out by Hamas against Israel. Since then, the war has, of course, provided devastation across the board, including innocents in Gaza, as well as additional Israelis. Tens of thousands of deaths, many wounded. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has worked relentlessly to conduct diplomacy back and forth to the region, trying to prevent the war from spreading into a larger regional conflict, trying to find some way to find a way to pave the path toward peace and a future that is sustainable So we want to go past the headlines of everything and take a look at what Secretary Blinken had to say today as he heads back into Israel, important diplomatic meetings in the Middle East. Let's begin.
Think you know the news of the day? Think again with Boyd Matheson on KSL News Radio.
As we've been covering, Antony Blinken is currently in Israel. He met with Israeli leaders today to begin looking at what efforts were being made to scale back the intensity and getting to what Israel has referred to as a more precise, more precision type of attack in their effort to eliminate Hamas from the area. As you look at the many casualties that have taken place there, there's all kinds of challenges in terms of the United States, Israel, working with the United Nations official. Red Cross has had difficulty in terms of getting to those hostages that are being held, including Americans among those hostages. And so we're trying to unpack that just a little bit today in terms of what is actually going on. What is Antony Blinken doing as Secretary of State to help clarify the U.S. position and interests, and what the U.S. is hopeful for in terms of the way Israel continues to prosecute this war against the terrorist organization Hamas? So Antony Blinken had a press conference following his conversations and reflecting on the last 3 months, mourning all of those who have lost their lives. He stated the main objective that U.S. policy is trying to achieve in Israel.
This immense human toll is one of the many reasons that we continue to stand with Israel in ensuring that October 7th can never happen again. It's also why we're intensely focused on bringing the remaining hostages home, addressing the humanitarian crisis, and strengthening protection for civilians in Gaza, and preventing the conflict from spreading. And it's the reason we're working urgently to forge a path toward lasting peace and security in this region.
The immense human toll is why we have to make sure this doesn't happen again. I think that's one of the biggest challenges in all the negotiations that are going on is, are we settling for de-escalation for the sake of de-escalation in the present? And in attempting to alleviate the suffering of some, will we be creating more suffering for others down the road? That's always the test in these kinds of negotiations. One of the interesting things I thought that Secretary Blinken talked about and decried was a recent submission to the United Nations of genocide charges against Israel, against Palestinians in Gaza. Secretary Blinken highlighted the hypocrisy of the charge, as many enemies currently attacking Israel are still openly calling for the genocide of the Jewish people.
We believe the submission against Israel to the International Court of Justice distracts the world from all of these important efforts. And moreover, the charge of genocide is meritless. It's particularly galling, given that those who are attacking Israel, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, as well as their supporter Iran, continue to openly call for the annihilation of Israel and the mass murder of Jews.
So that is one of the great ironies, the submissions against Israel, recognizing that many of those that are accusing Israel of atrocities are those who have sworn that they will carry out genocide and the mass murder of Jews relentlessly forever until it is done. So that kind of conflict and contradiction can't be overlooked, because so many people are just saying, hey, let's just get to peace. Let's get to peace. And that might feel good. That might sound good. But you actually have to get to lasting peace. It's one thing to declare it. It's another thing to do it and to live it. And again, we have to be careful that in our effort to alleviate present suffering, that we don't create more suffering later on down the road. Secretary Blinken discussed the future of Gaza with the Israeli leaders today, and he made it very clear what America will support and what America will not. For example, pushing the Palestinian people out of Gaza is something completely off the table.
Today, we also discussed the phased transition of Israel's military campaign in Gaza. I was also crystal clear. Palestinian civilians must be able to return home as soon as conditions allow. They must not be pressed to leave Gaza. As I told the Prime Minister, the United States unequivocally rejects any proposals advocating for the resettlement of Palestinians outside of Gaza. And the Prime Minister reaffirmed to me today that this is not the policy of Israel's government.
So that's a very important clarifier, that the people of Gaza, the innocent Palestinians, have to be allowed back to their homes, back to their neighborhoods once the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, scales back operations, and it's safe for civilians to go in there. And it was interesting that Secretary Blinken was very specific in saying, look, this is the U.S. policy. And in his meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu today, that Benjamin Netanyahu confirmed that that was also the policy of Israel. That's very important. Secretary Blinken also addressed the current conflict on Israel's northern border with Hezbollah in Lebanon. He seemed confident that rather than a further spread of the war, that diplomacy can actually prevail and, again, help create those conditions for lasting peace.
We also spoke about the tensions on Israel's northern border with Lebanon, where Hezbollah continues to launch daily rocket attacks on Israel. We're fully committed to working with Israel to find a diplomatic solution that avoids escalation and allows families to return to their homes, to live securely in northern Israel and also in southern Lebanon. We continue to discuss how to build a more durable peace and security for Israel within the region. As I told the Prime Minister, every partner that I met on this trip said that they're ready to support a lasting solution that ends the long-running cycle of violence and ensures Israel's security. But they underscored that this can only come through a regional approach that includes a pathway to a Palestinian state. These goals are attainable, but only if they're pursued together.
So pursuing those items together, I think, is the real key, that there does need to be a path towards that lasting peace. The two-state solution continues to be the driving force there. And there seems to be hope and continued optimism, at least from the partners in the region. And that was very important that Secretary Blinken pointed out as he's met with leaders in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar, in other places, that there is this support for a two-state solution. I think that's an important part and piece of the puzzle towards lasting peace. And so that's got to all come together. Finally, Secretary Blinken said that he had exhorted the Prime Minister and Israel to make some tough diplomatic choices. He urged them that for that lasting peace in the region, that they've got to be willing to work with the Palestinian people, as well as working with other nations to make sure that there is an actual path towards that Palestinian state and a two-state solution.
Israel must be a partner to Palestinian leaders who are willing to lead their people in living side by side in peace with Israel as neighbors. And Israel must stop taking steps that undercut Palestinians' ability to govern themselves effectively. Extremist settler violence carried out with impunity, settlement expansion, demolitions, evictions, all make it harder, not easier, for Israel to achieve lasting peace.
So it continues to be a very complicated, complex place in the world, and that will be the continued challenge. And I think Secretary Blinken can keep the engines of the jet warmed up, because he's going to continue to do that shuttle diplomacy back and forth to the Middle East, not just to Israel, but to the partners in the region, to figure out what is that pathway to peace. How do you deal with Hamas, who continues to say that their goal is for more October 7th style attacks against Israel and genocide against Jews? That's a tough thing to negotiate with. But I thought it was important. I thought it was significant, again, under the headline of what Secretary Blinken was saying, in terms of that the Israelis have to be willing to work with Palestinian leaders who are willing to work towards that two-state solution, who are willing to lead the Palestinian people towards that pathway to peace, rather than Hamas, who continues to threaten and to promise what they will do next in terms of their attacks against Israel and against the Jewish people. So a lot to continue to break down, but most of it is beyond the headlines. You have to slow down, you have to step back and look at it just a little different if we're actually going to find a better path towards lasting peace. We'll be right back.
Think again on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson. Severe weather means more than inches of snow and temperature forecasts.
Plenty of delay now approaching the freeway.
Crash on southbound and northbound I-15.
We appreciate it brings disruption, nervous driving, and changes to school schedules and plans. This week, get up and tell Alexa, play KSL News Radio.
We have you covered at KSL News Radio.
When's the best time to plant a tree? It was 20 years ago. When's the second best time to plant a tree? It's now. I'm Jeff Jr. with Trajan Wealth, and I remember years ago being sent home from elementary school with a small tree in a styrofoam cup. I know some of you can relate. If that was planted, it's now bigger than you are. Your finances are the same way. The best time to get started, or the best time to get a second opinion, is now. And with time and patience, imagine how big your financial tree could be. 20 years ago, if you invested $1,000 in Apple stock, it could be worth over $500,000 today. That is a big tree. Do that for you and do that for someone you love. Call Trajan Wealth today and help us help you plant that financial tree.
Call 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600. Or visit TrajanWealth.com.
Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
If you're looking to get a new car, you could really cut expenses by bundling your car and renter's insurance with Progressive. Sure, you love your old car, but you know it's not normal to give instructions on how to open the window. It should be self-explanatory, but it's not. And notice how when you're in other people's cars, you can feel cushion in the seats? That's pretty nice, right? No, it's just normal. So bundle your renter's and car insurance with Progressive and put the savings toward a new car. It's time. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Coverage provided and serviced by affiliates and third-party insurers. Not available in all states.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Go to hims.com/joy. Through HIMS, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, and the process is 100% online. To start your free online visit, go to hims.com/joy. That's HIMS.com/JOY.
The snow and the cold are here, and there's more to come. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and if you haven't gotten your furnace tuned up yet, I'm about to save you some money. Normally, we charge $124 to tune up your furnace, but if you call today, Tuesday, January 9th, and mention you heard this ad, we'll give you $95 off and tune up your furnace for only $29. Call Any Hour Services right now to schedule. 801-443-7400. Manufacturers recommend annual maintenance to ensure safe operation, maximize efficiency, and help your furnace last for as many years as possible. 801-443-7400. If it's more convenient, go to anyhourservices.com and look for the red button that says Book Online. Schedule your $29 tune-up there. To lock in your $95 savings, all you need to do is get a hold of Any Hour Services today. That's a $124 value for only $29 if you call Any Hour Services today. 801-443-7400. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
It is cold outside, and that's no surprise because it's winter. But for me, it's been even colder than usual because I've shed over 50 pounds, yes, 50 pounds of fat weight since September following the program designed for me personally at Soda Weight Loss. Yes, I made it through the holidays losing weight, not gaining it, and as a result, now I gotta wear a jacket all the time because I'm so cold. But it's so fun to take off the jacket and be skinny. And just in time to help you keep your New Year's resolution, I've got an amazing opportunity to tell you about. You could win a full year of Soda's amazing program and a $2,000 wardrobe makeover, and you'll need it, in Soda's Shape Up Showdown. To enter, all you have to do is send an email to shapeup@sodaweightloss.com. That's shapeup@sotaweightloss.com. That's it. So don't wait anymore. Make 2024 the year you change your life for the better with Soda Weight Loss. Say it with me. State of the art.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dale Spalding. First, snow is expected to hit the state all afternoon and evening, impacting your drive home tonight. Second, wind chill across northern Utah will make things feel like 10 to 15 degrees tomorrow and Thursday. Third, road conditions are expected to be rough the next couple days. Officials advise to keep emergency equipment in all vehicles. Right now it's 31 and cloudy in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Boyd Matheson divides rage from reason on Inside Sources.
Well, Utah has a worldwide reputation for service, so no wonder the state and national leaders in the worlds of philanthropy, government, business descended on the Delta Center in Salt Lake City yesterday for a special symposium called Why We Serve. Governor Spencer Cox invited guests to dig into that question to showcase how Utah excels in volunteerism. But we want to get beyond all of that to look at all of these different connection points and this whole idea that we continue to come back to, and that is that community and culture lead, politicians will follow if we do it right. And there are some organizations that are doing that in a most extraordinary way. And we're really thrilled to have one of those who participated, one of the attendees and speakers yesterday, Jennifer Sarangelo, is the CEO of the nationally renowned Points of Light Foundation. And, of course, most of us harken back to former President George H.W. Bush as he shared that vision of 1,000 points of light, individuals and organizations across the nation helping others through service. And that legacy continues on in a big way. And Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Let's start with 1,000 Points of Light and some of the things you're doing. Then we'll talk about the engagement you had here in the state of Utah yesterday. Give us an update in terms of the focus of the Points of Light, your global network, some of the things you're doing to make sure it is community and culture that lead.
Great. Well, it's been so great to be here to celebrate this, but thanks for the opportunity to just share a little bit. You're right. President George H.W. Bush's vision is still alive and well 34 years later. And today, Points of Light has 145 affiliate nonprofit organizations around the globe that are partner affiliates of us and are dedicated to advancing and promoting volunteerism and service to others in their communities, whether it's here in the U.S. or around the world. And we're in 39 countries. And together, all of those affiliates host about 16, almost 17 million hours of service a year through volunteers. So we're very proud of that. And then we have about 250 multinational companies that work around the world and work with and help their employees volunteer through volunteer programs and opportunities and paid days off to volunteer. And we work with them too. So it's very exciting to be here to celebrate this in the many ways service can change our culture.
Yeah, no question about it. It's so powerful. One of the things that I love on the Points of Light website is that this belief, this commitment you have that this century is going to be a civic century, that return to civics. Explain that for us just a little.
Sure. Well, we, like our founder, George H.W. Bush, we believe that the only definition of a successful life is one that involves service. And you can see with all the issues happening today that we have individually, from loneliness and isolation and anxiety to the things we're experiencing corporately, as a group, not corporations, but, as a society where we have things that divide us and polarization and things that are keeping us separate. This is a day when President Bush's, this civic century ahead is really when President Bush's vision is even more relevant today than it was 35 years ago.
Yeah, and it's hard to believe it's been 35 years because I remember that. I remember that line in that speech as a nerd of speeches that it was just like that. He uttered that. I was like, oh yes, that's exactly it. I also love his quote that the solution to each problem that confronts us begins with an individual who steps forward and who says, I can help. That means it really is up to each of us individually. So give us a sense of the conversation over at the Delta Center yesterday as you gathered really an extraordinary group from around the world. Give us a sense of the conversation.
Sure. Well, just really quick on that individual thing before I jump to that, I want to share it. You'll love this. So that part about the individual, President Bush really believed, and we've kept that going. And I just wanted to share with you, we still honor a daily point of light. That started when his first day in the White House and has continued since. And we have now honored over 7,800 everyday Americans for how they have stepped up and served in their community. So isn't that extraordinary?
I love that.
And yeah, I thought you'd love that little factoid. Not many people know that. So you're right. So your Governor Cox is truly a leader nationally in service, and he and your First Lady really believe in the power of service for what it does for individuals and what it does for our culture. So it was a very exciting meeting yesterday, and we talked a lot about the benefits of service both for individuals and, all that we need to do to heal and move our country forward. We also talked about it as a part of really preparing young people for work and life, and I know that's a really big part of their vision.
No question, and it is so important. Okay, now you got me thinking. I want to go back to the 7,800.
Yeah.
Because it is we end the last thing we say on this show every day is it's three things. It's see something that inspires, say something that uplifts, and do something that makes a difference. And I love the fact that you've been celebrating for 35 years now everyday Americans who are doing just that, who are just going out, and give us just some sense of some of those that you have honored or talked about, because sometimes we think, oh, I don't have time for this, or I don't have big money resources to do that. Give us some examples of how people just are making a difference.
Sure, great. Well, and you're right. It does not take money to make a difference. You'll love one of the latest ones. We had one that was 7,800 actually, and the young man was from in Massachusetts, and you'll love this story. So he was walking with his elderly grandfather, and the walking is really good for him. And he realized his grandfather was hesitating to go out and didn't want to go for the walks because he was worried about finding a bathroom during the walk. And it's so funny because my parents are the same way. And so this young man, well, he's like, I'm going to solve it, right? And he, without any money, has all of his own ingenuity and his own brain. He started mapping. He started to figure out what's going on with the bathrooms in our area, and he started mapping where they were. He's advocated for more restrooms, and it's like access for restrooms. But I loved it because it's so common, like with my parents, the same thing. And so that's like one small example, a young man doing that because he was inspired by his grandfather. And I've met so many points of light. I met an amazing woman. I was in Maine, actually in Kennebunkport. We were celebrating in Maine over the summer, and where the president loved to be. And I got to celebrate a woman who had for over 30 years been working and just dedicated to the success of a horse therapy center where it was no money involved. She was a volunteer. She loved horses, and she knew they could help people. And she told me the story about a woman who had very strong sort of physical challenges, but when she got on the horse, she felt normal. And that really, changed her life to be able to come regularly to that therapy center. And it's people like Valerie who really make that possible. So our points of light are very special. You can read about, you can go on to, we have them on, LinkedIn and our Facebook page. You can, if you wanted to read about them too, there are so many. I am so inspired every day. It's awesome.
We absolutely love that. And you can check all of that out at pointsoflight.org. It's an extraordinary organization. I can't believe it's been 35 years since President George H.W. Bush uttered those words. Grateful to have you in the state of Utah, part of a crucial conversation, and just a reminder that all of us can be that point of light in our own world, in our own neighborhoods every single day by just doing small and seemingly insignificant things. Jennifer Sarangelo, CEO of the Points of Light Foundation, thanks for being in the state for this conversation. Thanks for joining us on Inside Sources today.
Great to be here.
And that's Jennifer Sarangelo, CEO of Points of Light Foundation. That's a great organization. 35 years. I can't believe that. 7,800 points of lights they've honored. You should be one of those today. We're going to continue this conversation about service and the impact in our communities coming up next. Stick around.
It's 2:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dale Spalding. KSL's top story this hour. Snow will make our drive home tonight a little more challenging. KSL News Radio's Amy Kobabe reports.
The best advice from our KSL meteorologists, the earliest you can leave work today, the better. Kevin Eubank says that the worst of the storm will hit tonight between 5 and 7, so right when traffic is also at its worst. This storm is also likely to hit harder in the areas north of the Salt Lake Valley.
This is just the first round of many storms on the way for the rest of the week. A BYU study found that Utah's Democratic population is growing. KSL at Night co-host Taylor Morgan told David Dejanovic things are actually going the opposite way. Back in 2000, the Republican voter population was only at 40%.
Today, registered Republicans in Utah are 50% of all voters. Democrats are about 13% of voters. So over the last 24 years, Utah has become significantly more red.
He added that back in 2000, 31% of legislators were Democrats. Now it's just 19%. Provo police say a man was killed in an accident involving a jack failure inside the garage of a home belonging to Utah Senator Kurt Bramble over the weekend. Police say 2 men were working on a trailer in the garage when police say the jack failed and the trailer fell onto one of the men. He was pronounced dead at the hospital. Senator Bramble was not hurt. Your money at this moment, the Dow down 157 points, the NASDAQ up 13 points. Coming up, you can expect a rough commute tomorrow morning. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 2:32.
You know what's great about KSL's traffic coverage? Trained traffic reporters and real listeners.
Trading information and making the commute safer and faster for everyone.
Every 10 minutes on the 9s, we have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Introducing Yes, Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric. We're bringing all of Utah's favorite HVAC, plumbing, and electrical brands under one roof. Maximize your energy savings with a new energy-efficient heating and cooling system from Yes, and you could save up to $4,500 through possible tax credits and other discounts. Purchase a new system today, and Yes will buy back your old inefficient HVAC system. Visit theyesmancan.com to schedule your appointment. Call now or visit theyesmancan.com for details, terms, and conditions.
This is Todd Frayton's heart. He's begun his wellness journey. This is its sound on a treadmill, at a slight incline, on a stroll through the forest. And this is the heart of Maria Sanchez, his physician. What's it doing here? A lot, actually, because when we partner with you, we don't just offer a strategic plan and status updates. We put our hearts into it, beat for beat. We call it the power of we, Intermountain Health.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now, and the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products, and we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Even easier than choosing to keep the Grinch away from the toy drive.
Who's going to deliver the toys to the kids?
What about me, the Grinch?
No.
Yep, even easier than that.
You steal the presents one time.
With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, is it even a decision? That's banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Capital One NA, member FDIC. Copyright Dr. Seuss Enterprises. Copyright Turner Entertainment Company.
Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors. And did you know that we get a bunch of service calls per year from people who didn't even hire us? That means they originally hired someone else to replace their siding, gutters, and windows. Then later, when a problem popped up, they tried to call their contractor back to fix it, only to find out that the contractor has ceased to exist. They're gone, done, out of business. At RGS Exteriors, we've been serving Utah for 70 years. As a fifth-generation owned contractor, we've got customers who are the grandkids of our customers we had in the 1950s and 60s. We're not going anywhere. We will be here when you need us, period. For siding, gutters, and windows, now and forever, call RGS Exteriors at 801-280-3110 or visit at rgsexteriors.com. That's 801-280-3110 or rgsexteriors.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair. Save up to 20 cents with DinoPay. Here's Michelle Rowe.
Well, again, I-15 looking really good if you're going from Tremont and all the way down to Santa Quin. I am looking at a live shot of this crash in South Ogden. It's at Washington Boulevard, 40th Street, blocking the center of the intersection. Don't miss the amazing Utah Auto Expo, January 7th, 12th through 15th at the Mountain America Exposition Center. See the newest cars, trucks, electric vehicles, all in non-selling environment. AutoExpoUtah.com. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, a winter weather advisory in place until Thursday. You can expect 7 inches of snow and up to 11 inches on the benches. Right now it's 32 degrees and mostly cloudy. I'm Dale Spalding from KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We are Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. It's great to be with you today, as always. And we just wrapped up a conversation with Jennifer Sarangelo from the Points of Light Foundation, part of Utah Governor Spencer Cox's symposium called Why We Serve. Took place yesterday at the Delta Center. And we want to keep digging down on this. There's so many important components to all of this. One of the key lessons to come out of the event was service, volunteerism, that it actually builds bridges that help us get past that widening political divide or that partisan divide that makes us think we're so divided as a country when I don't think we're nearly as divided as maybe some on the far right and the far left want us to believe that we are. And so if there ever was a year or an era or a season where we need that reconnection in significant ways, I think it's right here, right now in 2024. And so we want to get in this next conversation of how do we go beyond just knowing service is a good thing to actually doing it, to actually producing the right kind of results and increasing the public's faith in the institutions, the ideals of our constitutional republic. And so really thrilled to have joining us on the program someone who participated in yesterday's event and has survived an airplane ride in between. More Perfect co-chair Alan Casey was part of the conversation yesterday. And Alan, thanks for squeezing us in after getting in and out of town.
Well, Boyd, thank you so much. And I totally agree with you. I don't believe we're as divided as, people in D.C. say we are. And service is definitely a big part of the answer of showing the spirit of America to come together, roll up our sleeves, solve problems, and unite in common purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. Community and culture lead. The politicians will follow, folks, if community and culture lead. So that's part of our job. Alan, I want you to share with our listeners a little bit about More Perfect and some of the things that you're doing to prove it out, that community and culture do lead and that the politicians will eventually follow.
Absolutely. Well, More Perfect comes from, in order to form a more perfect union, we the people, which was our founding charge as a country, and we are focused on renewing our democracy. We're a partnership of now more than 24 presidential centers, from Barack Obama all the way back to John Adams, working together. They never united like this. We also are partnering with the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, the National Archives Foundation, the Karsh Institute for Democracy at the University of Virginia, and 100 other organizations working on the ground in 5 key areas. We've set 5 what we call democracy goals to renew our democracy. First is civics, restoring civics in schools, making sure everyone understands what our country is all about. Second is what yesterday was about, dramatically expanding national service and volunteering. And so appreciate the leadership of Governor Cox and Abby Cox and Lieutenant Governor Henderson and everybody in Utah, the #1 volunteering state in the country. Third is bridge building. How we come together from across differences. The fourth is making sure we have trusted elections and effective governance. And the fifth is making sure we have trusted information and restore local journalism. There's been this dearth of local journalism across our country, and so we feel like we have to restore that. Studies shows if you don't have strong local journalism, civic pride goes down, voting goes down, accountability for government goes down, et cetera. So we're focused on those 5 big goals. Our initial benchmark is the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, which comes up in 2026. And we want to say, well, that shouldn't just be a celebration. It should also be a time to say, where are we as a country on that journey to a more perfect union, and can we advance these goals as part of that? But it's really more of a 10-year effort.
Yeah.
To really try to advance these in a big way.
Oh, I love that. And I wanted to unpack a few of these because I think the work you're doing in this space is so vital. It's something we talk about regularly on this program. And I want to dig in specifically into this area of trust. I often say on this show that we have stress tested this nation in all kinds of things. We've done it in world wars, pandemics, economic collapse, but we've never really stress tested our constitutional republic in the absence of trust. And whether that's trust in the institutions of government, or as you say, if we lose that trust and we stop trusting local, we stop trusting neighborhoods, we stop trusting each other, then we're really in trouble.
Well, you have an excellent point, Boyd, and trust is down. There's no question about that. Part of the reason we were so enthused about the day-long event yesterday, and really hats off to Governor Cox and First Lady Abby Cox, they spent the whole day. Often, our leading politicians will come in, they'll do their bit, they'll leave. But they sat there, they were both taking notes. I was right with them. And I think, what he launched yesterday, especially this new idea of a service year fellowship, where he's going to give young Utahns who've finished high school a chance to spend a year in full-time service to their community and the state, choosing what they want to do with any nonprofit that says we want to host them. That's a great way to build trust. When people roll up their sleeves side by side and volunteer, that builds trust. When we make sure that we have local journalism to cover our local, civic events as well as hold government accountable, that builds trust. And in the absence of that, nothing will succeed. So I think you've put your finger on a key issue, and really part of what More Perfect is designed to do, as we did yesterday, partnering with Governor Cox, is to have these democracy goals to focus on building trust. And the truth is, every time we've had a big challenge in this country, the American people rise to the challenge, going back to the founding and the citizen soldiers, to the abolitionists, to the women's movement, to get women the right to vote, to the civil rights movement, et cetera. People roll up our sleeves in times of challenge, and that's what I think we need to do now.
Yeah, no question. And it's become popular for a lot of our politicians to say, trust me, we'll solve it. And I think we just got to flip the script. I trust the American people. They're the most compassionate. They're the most connected. They're the most powerful force on the planet. And we just have to trust that a little bit more. As you went through the day yesterday, was there an aha moment for you, a surprise moment, or something that's like, oh, I hadn't thought of it that way, or oh, wow, there's another connection point for a bridge or an opportunity?
Well, I wouldn't say it was a surprise, but it was just an affirmation. There were two panels of young people yesterday, which, again, credit to Governor and Abby Cox. Abby opened the program with interviewing 4 young people, all of whom had been involved in service. And then Lieutenant Governor Henderson did another panel with even younger kids, high school kids. And, I wish the whole country could have seen those two panels, Boyd. You listen to these young people, the experience they've had, the friendships they've made with people they never would have met before through their service work, the impact it's had on them and on the people they serve. We had somebody from the National Guard there, as well as people who've done AmeriCorps. And just to, listen to these young people, I say, why don't we have this for everybody? It definitely works. And, people often say the young people don't care. They do care. And we just got to give them the chance to participate. They'll grab the baton and they'll lead us in new directions. So that was really encouraging to me.
So important and such a crucial thing to highlight. And it is that job. We all have to highlight that. We all have to put it forward. And we talked in the last segment, we end this show the same way every day with a 3-part challenge, and that is see something that inspires, say something that uplifts, and do something that makes a difference. And it seems to me that what you're focused on with these 5 goals in More Perfect, that is the way that all of us can do something today to make a difference. So give us one thing, Alan, as we close out, that you hope people will think differently or do different today as a result of the conversation.
Well, but your whole approach is so uplifting. Thank you. I hope that people will not accept the dominant narrative that comes out of D.C. that we're hopelessly divided, and to recognize that, as you said, the spirit of the American people, we see that in times of disaster. Whenever there's a fire or a flood or a hurricane or any kind of disaster, people roll up their sleeves, they help their neighbors, they welcome them in their homes, they help feed them. That's the true spirit of America. It's what built the country. So I hope that people will realize that it is up to us. It's not up to and you look at the great change, it's always come from the people, not the political leaders. And we got to take it in our hands. It's in that's what More Perfect's about. It's 250th. Let's not just make it a celebration. Let's make it a chance to roll up our sleeves and say, what can we do to get us back on that journey to a more perfect union? Because that's really what America's a beacon to the world about.
No question. And the answers are not going to come from the marble halls of Congress. They're going to come from our kitchen tables and from our own backyards, for sure. Alan Casey, co-chair of More Perfect, a bipartisan campaign to help Americans engage in democratic renewal and just make a difference. Civics, national service, bridge building, trust. are all such crucial pieces to the puzzle. Alan, thank you so much for coming to the state of Utah, being part of a crucial conversation, and we look forward to having you back as we continue this march towards the 250th anniversary of this great nation, and hopefully not just a celebration, but an emulation of what has been done and what will lead to a more perfect union. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Boyd. My pleasure. Thank you for what you do to uplift our citizens and our communities.
All right, Alan Casey, co-chair of More Perfect, again, part of a crucial conversation convened by Governor Cox, First Lady Abby Cox, and it's one that Utah can lead the country and really lead the world in a different kind of conversation about how we actually make a difference. We'll step aside. Final thoughts coming up next on Inside Sources.
We asked for it.
We need a healthy snowpack to fill our reservoirs.
Now we're getting it.
The plows have gone through here, but it is definitely still slick.
Emergency traffic.
Icy conditions on the road, even with the plows throwing down some salt.
Well over a foot of snow for the Wasatch Front total.
Now that we're finally seeing snow in the valleys, you should know KSL is ready. Get updates with traffic and weather together every 10 minutes on the 9s and emergency traffic at a moment's notice.
We have you covered at KSL News Radio.
I know it's Tuesday, but give me 60 seconds and I'll explain how spending $29 guarantees your furnace won't break down this winter, or we'll give you your money back. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and when you have Any Hour do the annual maintenance on your furnace, it comes with our no breakdown guarantee, 801-443-7400. Normally, we charge $124 to tune up your furnace, but not today. If you call today, Tuesday, January 9th, and mention you heard this ad, you'll lock in a $95 savings and get your furnace tuned up for only $29. 801-443-7400. If your furnace breaks down anytime this winter after we tune it up, we'll dispatch a technician to your home to diagnose and troubleshoot your system for free. And we'll give you back the $29 you paid for the tune-up. Where else are you going to find an offer with this little risk? You literally get your money back if your furnace breaks down. Call Any Hour Services today and schedule your $29 furnace tune-up. 801-443-7400. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
Jackson Hewitt has a plan to get your tax refund fast with a buck here, buck there. Here a buck, there a buck, everywhere a buck.
You don't have to wait weeks for your tax refund. Get money sooner with a no-fee refund advance loan at Jackson Hewitt.
On this loan, there's a money today guarantee. E-I-E-I-Do.
Don't settle for chicken feed. Get fast bucks at Jackson Hewitt today. No-fee refund advance loans by Republic Bank offered to eligible clients. Money today guarantee if approved for a loan on a prepaid card. Details at jacksonhewitt.com.
Give the star in your life the brightest gift in the world. Name a star after them. This is Rocky Moselle with International Star Registry. For $59 and a call to 800-282-3333 or visit starregistry.com, you can name a star for birthdays, weddings, or even memorials. Over 45 years, we have named millions of stars for celebrities and individuals from around the world. The star you name will be recorded in book form in the U.S. Copyright Office. Visit starregistry.com or call 800-282-3333.
Do you have 3 ex-wives and your current trophy wife wants a life insurance policy 3 times the size of the policies you had to purchase for your previous mistakes? If so, you need to call Big Lou at Term Provider, 800-859-3220. Big Lou is intimately familiar with your problems, and if you're 50 to 60 years old and in reasonably good health, a $1 million policy should only cost about $100 to $200 per month. Big Lou may have a solution for your previous policies as well. You may even save enough money to lighten the load on your new $1 million policy. Remember, call Big Lou. He's like you, except he's only on number 2. Call Term Provider at 800-859-3220. That's 800-859-3220 for $1 million in term life insurance that you can live with. Call Big Lou at 800-859-3220. 800-859-3220.
The new year is here, and it's time to take advantage of Zerorez's best deal of the year. Carpets, tile, rugs, upholstery, basically every surface in your home can be Zeroresified. So it's time to call the cleaning pros at Zerorez. Don't forget your air ducts to help alleviate allergies or asthma. Enjoy less dust, lower energy bills, and your home will stay cleaner longer. Don't DIY it. Call Zerorez because you know it's safe and effective. Zerorez has a 4.8 rating on Google with over 3,300 reviews. The Zerorez Gotta Love It guarantee makes it easy to get what you pay for. Yeah, Zerorez absolutely stands behind every cleaning. Don't miss the best deal of the year. Get back to clean and get one room of carpet cleaning starting at just $25 per room by using promo code 25RM. Call Zerorez at 866-ZEROREZ or go online at zerorez.com and say you want the station special. Zerorez. Spell it backward or forwards. It spells the same.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Dave and Debbie. One of my favorite things about Debbie is when we're in the middle of an interview, a light flips on and there's something that she picked out. I call it her spidey sense. And then she just tenaciously goes after that line of questioning. If someone tries to spin it, she's respectful, but she's firm. And she won't let you go with just that easy, trite answer. She's going to get down to the bottom of it, and I love it.
I've always been impressed with Dave's ability to go back in his memory bank and drag out factual details from previous interviews, weeks, months, even years ago. It is phenomenal to watch that happen because it adds so much context to our coverage in the moment. Dave's got it all right up here in his brain, and that's impressive.
This is a thing that Debbie does not do well. On-the-fly math.
I agree. So one thing I agree with him on.
Listen for Dave and Dejanovic 9 to noon on KSL News Radio.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dale Spalding. First, we're just a few hours away from another round of snow, and it's expected to make the commute home a rough one. Second, avalanche danger is expected to reach dangerously high levels in the mountains of northern and central Utah this week. Third, for the first time, parents of adopted children in Utah will be eligible for a $3,500 tax credit. Right now, it's 31 and cloudy in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Hear elevated conversation on crucial issues. Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. It's great to be with you today. As always, I am Boyd Matheson. As we round out the program today, we've had headlines, of course, breaking over the last 24 to 48 hours about the United States Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin having surgery last month without informing the White House. And initially, I think people thought, oh, this was an elective surgery. This was overblown. This doesn't matter. But as is often the case, there's more under the headline than the headline. And I think there were many who thought this would just kind of blow over. But as the facts continue to slowly drip their way out, things are maybe a little more serious than we first thought. And so we want to break that down. And our first and foremost, we hope that Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin has a speedy recovery. He did have diagnosed it with prostate cancer. And we hope that he has a complete and full recovery. And that seems to be the messages coming out now, that he is on the path to recovery. Things are going well. The interesting thing and the challenging thing is President Joe Biden didn't find out that his Secretary of Defense had prostate cancer until today. Even worse, no one at the White House knew that Austin had delegated his authority to the Deputy Secretary of Defense when he underwent anesthesia for the surgery. And then following that, there were complications. He went back into the hospital and into the ICU unit to receive some additional care as part of a complication post-surgery. So, as is often the case in these kinds of things, it's not what you did wrong that's the problem. It's the cover-up after. It's the not being forthright, not getting the details out forthwith so that people can see the transparency to move it forward. So I want to break it down just a little bit here as we round out the program today, because I think there are some important trust and process pieces that, again, it doesn't matter what the administration is. First concern, of course, is the health of Lloyd Austin. And then comes the job that he's tasked to do, which in the middle of complications and difficult things in the Middle East, things going on in Ukraine and in other areas around the world, the defense secretary is a big deal. And there's a lot of things going on, including attacks or counterattacks in the Middle East, as the Houthis in particular have been going after naval vessels and locations. So today, trying to finally clear the air a little bit more or a little bit better, hoping for some clarity rather than the confusion that's been out there for the last 48 hours. National Security Council Press Secretary John Kirby took to the platform today in the White House press briefing, said that the president not only didn't know about the procedure, he also didn't know that the Deputy Secretary of Defense had taken charge while Lloyd Austin was under anesthesia.
The Deputy Secretary, Kathleen Hicks, who had that authority delegated to her, who had a full communications suite with her when she was on leave and fully staffed, would have been more than capable of being the acting Secretary of Defense for that period of time.
Right, but importantly, in that hypothetical, the White House would have learned by not being able to reach Secretary Austin on that day that...
I mean, I don't know how I can prove that that's the case, but it didn't happen. But she had full authority to run the Defense Department.
So full authority granted there, but again, the scenario that was put forward was what would have happened if one of these attacks or counterattacks that the military was doing while Secretary Austin was under anesthesia, what if something had gone sideways or gone south? What if there was a sudden change or escalation in some area of the world? How would that have happened? How would the White House have known that they couldn't get a hold of Lloyd Austin? And would that slowdown have caused problems? That's the scenario. National Security Council Press Secretary John Kirby said that the White House Chief of Staff has announced a review of the transparency for all cabinet officials.
It is not optimal, Gabe. It is for a situation like this to go as long as it did without the Commander-in-Chief knowing about it or the National Security Advisor knowing about it, or frankly,